25 billion years from now, there will still be a lot of uranium in the Earth. However, the whole universe is only 16 billion years, so I don't know how we're going to wait that long.
Leuren, are they still testing with depleted uranium off the coast of the Northwest here? Do you know anything about
Yes,
that?
Congressman McDermott, Jim McDermott, I've worked a lot with him. He's a congressman from the Seattle area of Washington, D.C., and he's a medical doctor. And I had a lot of communications with him because the Navy is shipping out depleted uranium weapons to all of the theaters of war from Washington State, from Seattle. And the Navy ships all of the ammunition to the Coast Guard. They accidentally shipped depleted uranium bullets to the Coast Guard in Washington State, and the Coast Guard opened the crates and said, "We don't want this stuff." And they went to McDermott. He started an investigation. The citizens helped, and he was able to absolutely stop depleted uranium use by the Navy in Washington State coastal waters. So all they did was just sail up the coast to Vancouver and British Columbia, and they're using it there all over the place. Does anyone have any questions about this map? This is how mapping disease links disease to the environment and the cause of the disease.
I have a question. So if
Yeah.
you say that Hanford Reservation is leaking the stuff into the Columbia River, why?
They're dumping it. They're dumping it.
Why the diabetes rate in Oregon are not high?
Huh?
Why the diabetes rates in Oregon are not that high?
Oh,
Or
because,
in Washington? I mean, if there is
Well-
nuclear contamination, Oregon and Washington border is so high, why are diabetes rates so low?
because they're getting more radiation in the south, in the southern states. But look at North America compared to all other countries in the world. The whole country is nuked, and Fukushima just nuked it again, 10 times worse than Chernobyl. And when you see what we look like 20 years from now, it's going to be horrifying. What? Well, the whole west coast of North America is completely contaminated with radiation now. You too. Come here. I've got my Geiger counter. Stick your tongue out.
So yes, I have a question. So if there is a contamination, radioactive contamination in the water, how can I determine it?
How can they determine it?
How can I determine it?
You?
Yeah.
Oh, you have
pour the
to,
water into
no,
the
you
cup.
have to have a laboratory to do that. You need a mass spectrometer. You need very sophisticated and very expensive equipment to measure radiation in water. You can use a Geiger counter. I have a Geiger counter which detects disintegrating atoms, decaying atoms, but it doesn't tell you what volume of air, so you don't know the concentration, and it doesn't identify the isotopes. You need mass spectrometers or other scintillation counters or other very, very expensive earthquake equipment to do that. And the EPA, by the way, and the Canadian government said, there's no danger to radiation. No, the Fukushima, it's just tiny amounts. And 24 of the 124 monitoring stations that the EPA operates were broken, they said. But I talk to European scientists almost every day, and they sent me the German and the Norwegian data, and they measured it and reported it accurately because they are set up to monitor for atmospheric and underground nuclear weapons tests. It's part of the Non-Proliferation Treaty surveillance. So they can practically measure every single atom. And they reported it by altitude up to 10 kilometers. And they reported, well, they had maps, animated maps, 3 days at a time, where you could watch the plumes actually moving and where they were coming. And we really got hammered in Seattle and the coast of California. But it also contaminated Mexico, and then they did weather modification. Most of it came across the United States from west to east, and there was a high pressure area that they created with HARP over eastern Canada, and it included Los Angeles, New York, and Washington, D.C. So those were protected areas. Now, I think Obama should have taken all of us with him, but he took his wife and 2 children to the southern hemisphere for 3 weeks while we got nuked.
That's right.
And the public health departments in Sonoma County and Santa Clara County and every other county in California issued a letter to all medical doctors in each county on March the 17th, the day before the radiation arrived from the first explosion at Fukushima. And they said to all the medical doctors, do not give iodine tablets to patients who are concerned about exposure to radiation. They stopped measuring radiation in milk. They measured radiation in milk all through Chernobyl and for a year afterwards. So if you don't think by now that this government is not deliberately genociding the American people, then I have more evidence. For the skeptics. Now I'm going to show you autism. You think it's mercury in vaccines, huh? This is Washington State. This is where the highest precipitation is, rainfall and snow in Washington State. And this is where the highest autism rates are in Washington State. This is probably caused by the Idaho Nuclear Engineering Lab.
Where is Hanford in this picture?
Hanford is like over here somewhere. But this is probably related to radiation from the Idaho facility. Oh, and what I wanted to say, huh? What I wanted to say, just a second, is that the radiation comes down the Columbia River, and then the winds and the coastal currents carry it all the way up here into, all the way up to Alaska. So the Hanford radiation is also going north from the Columbia River as well as south. Did you have a question?
Yeah, so why the count is in between are not affected?
Huh?
Why the count is in between are not affected?
Why did they do what?
Why the counties in between are not affected?
I don't.
The other areas, right? The other counties in between, why they're not affected?
To the east?
Right.
Because they're not in the rain. They're not getting the rain and snow. Geography and weather are what determine where radiation ends up. You have the Cascade Mountains here. And so this is desert and rain, that's out of the rainfall area. It's in the rain shadow, it's called, where the precipitation is very low. It takes a while to understand the patterns, and it takes a while to understand radiation. It's a very complex subject. And there are many, many cofactors and other things to consider. This is Oregon. So this is where the highest precipitation is in Oregon, but this is where the highest autism is in Oregon. So this is part of that contamination in the corner of Washington, and it's got to be part of the Idaho Nuclear Engineering Lab. And this is downwind, and where it's downwind where there is more precipitation, but this goes down into California, and this is the effect of the Humboldt reactor, which the radiation is carried up the coastline there into Oregon. This is California. And what we have here is the highest precipitation. Highest precipitation. Southern California is fairly dry, but the Humboldt reactor is up here. And then there are delta and swampy areas where the Sierra Nevada mountains have a lot of runoff, and the clay particles in bodies of water are flat, platy, highly charged particles, very tiny. And actually it's what they put in women's cosmetics in foundation. It has clay in it to lay flat on the skin and to make a more even color. In water, clay particles are also highly charged, like snowflakes, and the clay acts as scavenging agents to collect the radioactive particles in the water. And that's why the highest cancer rates are along shorelines of rivers, coastlines, especially the mudflats, and around lake margins. So the particles wash up on the coastline. For instance, I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I wanted to know why Marin County on the San Francisco Bay side has the highest breast rate rates in the whole United States. And what I discovered in a great journal, you can read the abstracts online. It's called the Journal of Environmental Radioactivity. And it's behind the fence, locked up at the nuke labs in the libraries, but you can read the abstracts on the internet. And I learned a lot. For instance, phosphate is mined for uranium, it's mined for fertilizer, but they also make dental porcelain out of it. And to make false teeth whiter, they add uranium to it. And a scientist in Italy studied cancers. She was studying materials for prostheses. And so she started studying cancer in people who were using, they had false teeth or they had porcelain teeth. And what she discovered is higher rates of cancer of the mucosa, the lining of the mouth, but in people who had this dental porcelain powder in their teeth, she discovered that every cancer they had in their bodies had a piece of dental porcelain detritus in the center of the cancer.
How do you explain the autism rates in Southern California? No precipitation.
Oh, this is Diablo Canyon and San Onofre. And so the biggest dairy areas in California are down, the wind is blowing this way. Huge ocean winds blowing this way.
But don't you need the rain precipitation, according to your theory, to deposit?
Well, the wind has a lot of fog and moisture in it. And so even though it's light moisture, it still ends up in the environment. And so anyway, the Imperial Valley dairies are here, and in Fresno, the largest dairies in California are located there. So what they're doing is contaminating all of the dairy products for Southern California. And so what I tell people is when you are shopping for dairy products in Northern California, buy the Strauss dairy products, which are out by the Marin headlands where there are no radioactive sources except what's coming across the Pacific Ocean. Now, oh, uh-oh. Okay, now, this is the fallout map for the United States. This is where 1,300 nuclear bomb tests ended in the United States. And this caused a 12% decline in the SAT scores by 1963, for children born in 1963. So what we're doing is killing the creativity, the productivity, the ideas that make a culture vibrant and strong and powerful and productive. And now we've just done it again. We just keep killing our children.
Why? Leuren,
And
why-
killing
why-
our future.
I hope you're going to address, you know, a lot of allegations that you've made about sickness, and you can associate that maybe with profit, but now, you know, like killing this whole, why?
It's for profits. Weapons of mass destruction. I studied ionizing radiation for 8 years with Marion Falk, who made the hydrogen bomb work for the United States, and Dr. Ernest Sternglass and Dr. Jeanette Sherman. And one day, I can't understand. I've worked in 2 nuclear weapons labs. And I said, why in the world is the University of California the only, they've had the management contract for the nuclear weapons lab since the 1940s, since the Manhattan Project. Why is a university creating weapons of mass destruction? So I sat down at my computer and I Googled University of California plus skull and bones.
There you go. Depopulation.
And skull and bones are Yale men like Kerry, like the Bushes, like many secretaries of war, all the secretaries of war almost of the United States were skull and bones. It's a secret society of the ruling elite in this country, and 85% of the key government positions in the U.S. government are held by skull and bones men. That's who's doing it.
So I kind of get it, but I still, like, where's the profit in killing the creativity of our youth? Now, I was a teacher and I watched.
A lot of it is for land grabs. 80%, 75 or 80% of the energy resources in the United States, that's coal, oil, gas, minerals, are on Native American land. And so they are using radiation and nuclear technologies to depopulate the Indian reservations. And I went to the Indian reservations and I said, who gave you the money for these casinos? Who loaned you the money for these casinos? Because gambling in casinos are a poison smallpox blanket on the Indian reservations. It's completely destroying their culture, their viability, and what's happening is a small group of more conniving Indians, and there are a lot of white people involved, are delisting all the Indians with families and kicking them off the reservations. And that small group of Indians are building mansions, and they're taking all the money from the reservations. Yes?
The piece that's been understand at this point is for whatever reason. Do they honestly believe they're immune to what they're
Well, I have a really good answer for that. Let's compare President Kennedy to President George Herbert Walker Bush. And President Kennedy knew that radioactive fallout from bomb testing was killing American babies and children. He wanted desperately to stop the nuclear bomb tests. American grandmothers surrounded the White House with baby buggies. And that was a had a huge impact. But it was Kennedy who asked Dr. Ernest Sternglass to testify in Congress and help convince the Senate to ratify the Partial Test Ban Treaty, which they did. That ended atmospheric testing. But in that year, 1963, the nuclearizers at the Nevada test site who love bombs, they detonated 250 nuclear bombs in 1 year. That's almost one a day. And it takes 2 years to set up one nuclear bomb test. And if you looked at the huge amount of radiation released that year into the atmosphere, and you look at the diabetes rates after 1963, you can see the long-term effects of all that radiation. Just a minute. So what was, I forgot your question.
Do they really think they're immune?
Oh, okay. So Kennedy stopped it. George Herbert Walker Bush and Barbara Bush had 6 children. All of them have learning disabilities from nuclear bomb test exposure. It's not funny. They really are mentally ill. They're mentally damaged. All of them, all 6 children. And they had one toddler daughter named Robin who got leukemia. George and Barbara Bush took her to Walter Reed, and the day she died in that hospital room, they got up, they walked out the door, and they went and played golf the rest of the day, and they never buried her. And 3 years later, Barbara Bush's mother buried her granddaughter. And that story was on 60 Minutes. So you expect people who are world leaders, and a lot of them are sociopaths or psychopaths, to behave like normal people. And you're using logic on illogical people who are basically mentally ill. And most of our, 50% of our CEOs in corporate America today are sociopaths. They're selected for that character defect or that type of mental illness.
Well, I agree. However, think people like yourself who are in the industry.
No, I wasn't in the industry a long time. I worked at 7 years in 2 nuclear weapons labs, but I wasn't involved in that.
I guess my point is, you can see patterns, you can see what was going on, and
I didn't even know what a nuclear bomb was. I had no idea what ionizing radiation was doing. They don't tell you anything because they couldn't get anyone to work in a nuclear bomb factory if they knew. You have no idea what they're doing. You have no idea what the effects are. Yes?
I have a question about that HARP.
Yeah. I don't want to do HARP right now. We'll do it in the question and answer session. Okay, so what did that bomb testing cause? It didn't just cause cancer. These are diseases caused by free radicals. And there has been a huge increase in all of these illnesses since 1945. And Gandhi said, the miracle of the atomic age is not how it changed the world, it's how it changed you. And this is one of the big ways it changed us. Can you read these? Do you want me to read them to you? You can read them. Read them off? Okay. Arterial sclerosis, hypertension, diabetes, ischemia reperfusion, that's the blood circulation, chronic inflammatory diseases, rheumatoid arthritis, inflammatory bowel disease, lung damage and the adult respiratory distress syndrome, asthma, cystic fibrosis, oxidative stress and cancer, oxidative stress and ischemic or traumatic brain injury, oxidative stress in Parkinson's disease, oxidative stress in Alzheimer's disease, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, which is ALS, Other neurodegenerative diseases: Down syndrome, multiple sclerosis, neuronal ceroid lipofuscinosis, Huntington's disease, Friedreich's ataxia, tardive dyskinesia, prion diseases. The real cause of mad cow disease is ionizing radiation. They've got plutonium in their brains. And in England, they grind up the dead cows and they feed them to the living cows, so they're increasing the concentrations. HIV, oxidative stress and viral infections, HIV infection and mycoplasma. Now, these tiny nanoparticles from nuclear technologies enter the lungs, and they're nanoparticles. They're very, very tiny, 1/10 of a micron or smaller in diameter. The diameter of a human hair is 80 microns. These are invisible. You can't see them in the air. You can't taste them. You can't smell them. You don't know they're there. If you live downwind from a nuclear power plant or within a 100-mile radius, all those fresh fission products with very short half-lives like radioactive iodine go into your house and they attach to the house dust. And so your children, your babies, your grandparents, your friends are all inhaling that house dust. No wonder everybody's sick within 100 miles of a nuclear power plant. They go into the 70% of the particles that get into your lungs go into your blood, and they're carried in cholesterol around your body. And that is why cholesterol is the bad actor according to our medical hierarchy in the United States. Everybody needs cholesterol. It's been in our bodies and the bodies of living things for billions of years. So what do they mean? It's toxic or it's going to kill us now. It's really the radiation particles that are hidden in the cholesterol, and the body's defenses can't detect them. Okay. Okay. Yes.
How come our lifespan is increasing? Or is that
It's
all?
decreasing.
It's decreasing every year. It's decreasing. Yes.
Leuren, I just want to make a comment to the
Nice
woman up
thought.
front there that not all of this activity is just based on greed. It's the fact that the global elite really do believe that they are superior individuals to the rest of us. They really are psychopathic, but they also believe that they are superior, that they are doing the right thing. That's really how they think.
It is how they think.
They're not getting it too, unless they have some kind of
They use all kinds of
miracle
things
drug
that,
or.
But they also don't care. If they get the money, they don't care. If they steal money and they go to prison, they don't care as long as they get to keep the money. What really makes them mad is that they go to prison and the money's taken away from them. It's the money. They will do anything. They're completely immoral. They're completely ruthless. And they are completely genocidal.
Yes, that's right.
really
Yeah,
do.
you're right.
And you can't explain that with logic.
No.
But I think there might be another dimension, and David Icke has an explanation for it. I mean, there are like many explanations for this beyond the money, because the money, yes, but it seems to me.
Sociopaths and psychopaths love to kill. They love to build big bombs. They love to kill lots of people. If you read a book, there are many books on narcissism. Read those books and you will understand these people. And also there's another good book, The Tyranny of Malice. And malice is at every level, from individuals in a family to working places, to corporations, to governments, and even countries. It's at every level. And when you understand the tyranny of malice, it's the dark side of man. It's always been a part of humanity. But indigenous cultures have always had ritual and other ways of containing malicious people. They keep them close. They contain them. They control them. And that's also what the evil eye represented. It was protection from the malice in people. We've just forgotten that. We can do that too. This is the effects of depleted uranium. These are the illnesses diagnosed 4 years after the 2003 Gulf War. Remember when we were demonstrating all over the world, including Antarctica, against that war? We were right. This is what happened to 631,174 veterans who were shipped over there to a completely contaminated region, and they were handed depleted uranium weapons. They were billeted in the most contaminated areas, and they were mentally ill 2 months after they got over there.
Their offspring are
Deformed. And some of them came back after the Afghanistan war to Fort Bragg. In 3 months, 5 soldiers had murdered their wives at Fort Bragg. This is an epidemic of spousal murders on all the military bases, and it's from the depleted uranium. It's happening now at an epidemic rate, along with suicides. It's higher than after Vietnam or during Vietnam, and it's now happening in Israel because we gave Israel depleted uranium weapons with an additional cocktail called the dime weapon. It's a tungsten alloy that has a 100% tumor rate, and there is 100% death within 7 months. They've added that to depleted uranium bombs, bullets, missiles, and warheads. So these soldiers had never been in any other war before. A lot of these soldiers are our National Guard. They are in our states to respond to medical or other natural disasters. And what they've done is shipped them all over to the radioactive battlegrounds, and they come back and they're dumped on the county and state health facilities. And I knew no bills had ever been passed in Congress under 3 presidential administrations and how many sessions of Congress. So I went to state legislatures. I got 57 bills in state legislatures. And then Congressman McDermott attached that information to the first and last and only depleted uranium bill that was passed in Congress. And what happened is I pushed from the bottom up. And I went to the state legislators, I went to the veterans, and I said, if you don't address this issue, it's going to bankrupt the state, county, and city health facilities. And that's when they sat up and they started really acting. And Arcata passed the second depleted uranium bill in the state of California. Davis passed the first one many years in the 1990s. So what are these illnesses? This is a PowerPoint presentation from the Veterans Administration Office on Environmental Issues. And this was leaked to us, to Major Doug Rocky. He gave it to me. Look at this. The greatest damage is to the musculoskeletal system. The second highest rate is mental illness. Third is ill-defined conditions. And that is these tiny particles going all over the body and filtering out in tissues and in cells, causing any kind of damage you can imagine. There are so many effects besides chemical, radiological, and nanoparticle effects of uranium. There are all kinds of other effects they have in the cell.